Thank you very much, Mac, and thank you for inviting me to come and speak. When Mac called me about a month and a half ago, I really felt honored that he asked me. Like Mac said, we've been, myself and Mac have known each other for many years. We communicate often. Mac checks with me on what our programs are, our specialty bean and sometimes our specialty corn programs, so he can kind of match up some of his seed varieties with our programs, and so we kind of work together back and forth, and it works out very well. And we are kind of competitors, but you know, we're in the seed business also, but it never seems to interfere with anything that we're both doing, either in Hope or what Mac is doing here in Albert Lea. My name is LaVerne Klecker. I am in Hope. Hope, Minnesota is 20 miles north of here, right up the freeway. Exit 32 on the freeway. And I have been at the Hope facility for 46 years. So I've been there pretty much, it's about the only thing I've done in my whole career. So I do know the business very well. I can relate a lot to what Kurt just got done talking about here as far as ending stocks and you know, that's all we've ever done is corn and soybeans. We do specialize in corn and soybeans, strictly non-GMO and certified organic. So it's non-GMO corn, organic corn, non-GMO soybeans, and organic soybeans, okay? So some of the slides you're going to see here today relate a little bit with organic, and being that we work with both of them, and a lot of the things we do, that we use a lot of the same seed varieties for organic as we do non-GMO. And you'll see in here, identity preserve. A lot of what we do with soybeans is identity preserve, where we contract with a farmer a certain variety of soybeans. We will turn around and sell that variety in Japan or Korea or Taiwan or wherever it may be. We export grain out to 35 to 40 different countries in the world. So that variety will maintain its variety all the way from the seed to the farmer's bin when he hauls it into our facility, and then when we process it, and also when the sale is made to the export company, that it'll be made as that variety of soybeans. So it gets a little bit technical, and we do have sales also where it's soybean of special quality, and that's where you can mix probably 5 or 6 different varieties together. But there are customers that want a variety all the way through their processing plant. We specialize in sourcing and processing and packaging of organic and non-GMO food products, integrated from the seed to the finished consumer products. I kind of covered that a little bit already. SunOpta, we do have 3 soy milk plants, one in Alexandria, Minnesota, one in Hoboken, New York, and one in Modesto, California. And so we manufacture a lot of soy milk, and that is manufactured out of certified organic and non-GMO soybeans. We also have a corn processing plant in Cresco, Iowa, where we manufacture a lot of ingredients out of corn, and we do use special varieties that work better for our processing. We'll aim for corn the corn varieties that have a higher percentage of the horniest endosperm, and we'll manufacture grits flour and cornmeal, and these all go into snack food companies where they will use them for manufacturing their snack foods. And also that is, we use organic and non-GMO for that. Okay, focus on strategic vertically integrated business models serving retail, food service, and branded food customers. Globally sourced organic ingredients. Now, I mentioned to you, we specialize in corn and soybeans, and we only work with farmers in the U.S. for our corn and soybeans. We do not import corn or soybeans. And products that would get imported by SunOpta would be like chia or sesame seed, cocoa, for example, stuff, and fruit that would not be produced here in the U.S. We have state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities. I mentioned to you the soy milk plants and our plant there in Cresco. Our corn milling plant there in Cresco is really kind of a cute little plant. It's just a really small corn milling plant, and we can maybe mill about 2 semi-loads of corn there a day. So it gives you an idea. It's pretty small. Innovative consumer packaged goods, marketing and innovation department collaborative with 3,300 global customers to produce unique and innovative packaged goods. A lot of the soy milk, for example, that we produce for other companies that sell the soy milk under their brand. So the SunOpta, really, we do not have our own brand. It gets manufactured for other brands. We're going to cover a little bit here now, where all the demand is coming from for certified organic and natural. Natural would be your non-GMO. And this graph here shows that 42% of the people 18 to 24 years old are purchasing over half or more of their food purchases are organic or natural, okay? 25 to 34 year olds, 45% are purchasing organic or natural, and 35 to 44 year olds, 42%. So you take that range there from 18 to 44-year-old people, and they're watching what they're purchasing in the grocery store. And this is pretty interesting because that covers a large amount of people, and you see more and more people watching in the grocery store, looking at the labels and seeing what they're buying, and they're trying to be more and more conscious of what they want proper nutrition, and that's kind of what this is all about. They do not want GMOs, for example. And I've got 7 grandsons, and now I got 1 granddaughter. And believe it or not, I got a 9-year-old grandson. Was with him in a grocery store, and he was looking at the label, and he at something. He wanted to buy something, and he was trying to buy something that was lower in sugar. Okay, that's what he was aiming for, and I was kind of impressed with that. He never heard it from me, and how did he know that he wanted something lower in sugar? And so that's kind of a good example for a 9-year-old, and where is he going to be when he comes to being in that 18 to 24-year-old section, And here, self-perception, better for you compel consumption, okay? So you take that age group there again, 18 to 24-year-old, and 39% of them will say, I feel better about myself when I buy organic or natural foods, okay? Again, that's a pretty, you take that range there, more than a third of the consumers aged 18 to 34-year-olds say they feel better about themselves when they buy organic or natural. That number does drop significantly when you get down to consumers age 45 and above. So it's the younger generation that are really paying attention to, that are the younger consumers are driving the ship here. What was that?
Do you think that would continue through their lifetime, or do you think that's
Well, I definitely think it's going to continue through their lifetime, absolutely. And I think that the younger...
It's not trendy or...
No, I don't think so. Absolutely not. No. I firmly believe that natural, okay, non-GMO is where it's at, and which would include organic, because that's all non-GMO also. So, this chart here, I'm going to try and do my best explaining it to you. The light blue line on the bottom is global, and from 2012 to 2016, it goes from 2% to 5%, showing that globally, those are foreign countries that have come out with new products that they claim as non-GMO. The U.S., you can see, goes 4% to 15%. The U.S. has had a lot more products that they're claiming natural and non-GMO than the rest of the world. And I think I am explaining this pretty right. Some of this stuff is, I don't talk this talk all the time, so, but I think that's the way I understand it, okay? So 4% to 15% from 2012, there was an 11% growth in products that the U.S. Puts a non-GMO or a natural or organic claim on, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good growth. We're going to talk a little bit here about non-GMO corn, and right now we're going to talk about corn in general, I think. Corn ethanol production uses about 40% of the total corn that's produced in the U.S., and probably about 9.5% of the corn that's raised in the U.S. is either certified organic, and you'll see a chart on that here after a little bit, is either certified organic or non-GMO. And corn is also processed for human consumption and other industrial uses. Food, seed, and industrial uses of corn account for about 1/3 of the domestic use. Your wet millers process corn into corn syrup, starch, corn oil, beverage, alcohol, industrial alcohol, and fuel ethanol. Dry millers process corn, and that's what our plant is in Cresco, is a dry mill, into flakes for cereal, corn flour, corn grits, cornmeal, and brewer's grits for beer production. Food use for soybeans. While the use for soybeans for direct food only constitutes 6% of the annual use, it continues to grow at over 3% per year. So when you look at the bar chart here, in 2007, there's probably just under 14,000 metric ton of beans going into food, and today here, 9 years later, or 2016, I should say, we're 4 million metric tons more, and that's some pretty good growth. Yes.
Do you feel like most of that use is in soy milk, or is it in, what's the big driver there in growth?
Well, yeah, I think that we've experienced good demand and good growth in the soy milk, but soy milk has really kind of leveled off here lately, like over the last year and a half, 2 years. And so I think that a lot of that is we're continuing to see growth in tofu and that tempeh. There is good growth in natto and miso, and those are products that we don't see much around here. It's more of in the export market, but domestically here we are seeing continued growth in tofu.
And does that include things like soy protein isolate that they would add to processed food?
That is a very good question. I can't answer that because I don't know enough. The question was soy protein isolate. I do not know enough about soy protein isolate that I can get into that. If I told you something, I'd be just making it up. That's right. I don't want to do that. So anyway, we continue to see good growth there in the soy. Well, the soy milk, like I said, has leveled off, but we continue to see good growth in tofu, tempeh, natto, and miso. And the demand in the export market for soybeans from last year to this year, it just feels like there's some additional strength there. So that's really kind of a good feeling because we always like to see growth and we like to keep our inventories down. And when we buy IP soybeans from farmers and we don't get sales, that gets to be kind of painful. So I think that we're going to continue to see good demand. And like I mentioned earlier, identity preserved IP or specialty varieties of soybeans. We do have specialty varieties that there are certain varieties that work best for tofu, and we pay premiums based on varieties that farmers produce for us, and I'll have a chart for that here in a few minutes also. Yes?
That the global consumption, 18.5 million metric tons of soybeans, or is that the domestic?
No, I think it's domestic. It is domestic, I'm pretty sure.
The 6% annual use, that doesn't include the soybeans that you're exporting then, or it does?
Well, that's a very good question. This is information that was put out by the USDA.
The way I read it, I'm not 100% sure I'm right, but I read that as domestic.
Yeah, I think it's domestic, but a guy could probably pick this apart a little bit if he wanted to.
I was curious, it seems like it'd be domestic. That seems like a pretty big number for domestic use. 6% of soybeans in the United States are processed into food in the United States.
Yes. I guess the other way of looking at it, okay, is that we know that there's probably 6.5% of all the beans that's raised in the U.S. is either organic or non-GMO, okay? And we know also that of them 6%, a lot of them are exported, okay, for specialty foods. So it could be, but that's a very good point. It could be global. That 6% could be global. I will check it out, and I will I'll tell you the I'll tell you the right thing next year, okay? I'm sorry. Okay, non-GMO in the market. Non-GMO grains and seeds are becoming more popular with food processors and more recently in the feed market. We've seen some real big demand coming, and you know, every once in a while we hear of some big company that's launching a big non-GMO project. This whole non-GMO thing, you know, the premiums, and we'll talk a little bit about premiums as we go here. Premiums for non-GMO corn and non-GMO soybeans were a lot stronger here 5 to 10 years ago, especially in corn. You know, we used to see 25 to 30 cents a bushel premium on corn, and now, you know, if a guy is getting, you're lucky if you're getting 10 to 15, and sometimes can't get any more than a nickel. And believe me, sometimes we will get sold out for a penny, being off a penny, you know. So going into that feed, we're just kind of, I think we're at the tip of the iceberg on non-GMO going into feed. Yes?
Distinction between non-GMO and transitional corn, organic?
Yes, yeah. No, there isn't a difference. When we have a farmer that wants to transition to organic, and he plants corn in that transitional time, and that transitional time, for any of you who don't know, is a 3-year period before you become organic. And sometimes it can be 2 crops, okay? And we will put that transitional corn in with our non-GMO. There's a good chance that if a guy has transitional corn and we need non-GMO corn, that we will pull that transitional ahead of the regular non-GMO for a premium, because we really put a lot of focus on organic, and we want to promote, we want to help the farmer that's transitioning into his organic. We want to give him as much help as we can. So.
You buy oats?
Some. Organic.
Or transitional?
Transitional. Boy, that oat market is tough. And I think we really got to try and get more of them small grains into the livestock production. You know, there is a place for it. It's so hard to pull corn out and put oats or wheat in because corn is so cheap, you know. And it's hard to replace corn, but I think oats a lot of times has got a good place anyway for a portion of that diet. Oats is tough, and I do buy oats, but it's we have a hard time getting rid of it sometime. So, good question. In addition to independent groups such as the or Non-Organic Project, the USDA is in the process of developing rules for a new mandatory GMO disclosure regulation, which is slated to come into effect by July of 18. I don't know much about that, but you hear a little bit about it every once in a while, or I do, you know. Current rules for the use of non-GMO label claims call for 99.1 purity. Testing and segregation are required throughout production and handling. And we do 99.1 is our number, okay? And we do have sales that we make for some of them tofu makers that are requiring 99.9% purity. And we're able to do that, but you really gotta be on your toes, because it don't take much to cross the line, you know, so. IP variety specific for food processing. to produce, and I've covered some of this already, but to produce the highest quality soy food product, processors typically specify soybeans with special traits, to increase finished product yield. In tofu manufacturing, for example, protein directly relates to your yield on your tofu, okay? And everybody wants the best yield. They want the best quality. They want the firmest tofu. And certain varieties change some of them traits for them, okay? So that's why varieties are very important to us, because we know it's very important to our tofu manufacturers. The beanie taste, we do have varieties of beans that are lipoxygenase free. I know Mac works with them also, and produce a more consistent product. And higher, these attributes are related to variety specific traits such as high protein levels. The higher protein beans are definitely going to tofu. Modified lipoxygenase enzymes. A lot of the beans we use are clear hilum beans. Seed coat is very important. We do have color sorters at our processing plants, so we can clean them up pretty good, but that's only good to a certain point. So if we get soybeans in with a lot of dirt on them or discolored, mottled, for example, we can maybe clean them up if they're 5 to 10% that way. But if they come in 50%, we got a problem. Seed size. A lot of your tofu varieties, a lot of your higher protein varieties are a little larger seeded beans. And sugar. Sucrose. A lot of our export customers are measuring the soybeans for sucrose, which is sugar, and they have certain varieties that they want to work with that are at the ideal sugar content for their processing and for their end use product. Now this is just kind of an interesting slide. I know it says organic. I'm talking non-GMO, but a lot of what we do is organic and non-GMO together, But basically in 2017, animal feed demand, you can see hogs there, hogs and sheep, about 0.5% of the feed, organic feed is going to hogs and sheep. Dairy cows are consuming 30%, 29.9. Beef cows or other cattle, 29.2. Poultry is the big one. Them feathers eat a lot of feed. And a lot of the organic feed that we ship out to the West Coast and the East Coast is for poultry, either layers or broilers.
So, LaVerne, you mentioned on organic, for human consumption, the standard is the non-GMO standard is 99.1.
Yeah.
But on feed, it's now
98 point. Well, with a lot of the customers we're working with, is 98.5.
Okay. On the organic side.
Yes, okay. And non-GMO.
So the non-GMO project increased their standard to
95.
Basically 95.
Yeah, 95. But we still have customers that are working with the non-GMO project, and they are requiring 98.5. I mean, it's right in our contract, so. So organic animal inventories, these are kind of just interesting numbers. Dairy cows, 268,000 head. Layers, 15, what would that be? That'd be 15,476,000. Broilers, 19,438,000. Now, when you talk about broilers, the life of a broiler is 7 weeks, okay? So is that inventory? That's inventory as of December 31st of 16. And so would you take that 19,000 19,438,000 times, say, 6 or, maybe 6 turns a year. I don't know that for sure, but anyway, that was inventory numbers as of the end of 16. Okay, I just received this slide probably here only a week ago. You've seen it already, Mac. And the acres, okay? And we're all kind of about acres, and we all understand bushels. And so when you look at organic corn production in the U.S., 441,836 acres, producing 42.6 million bushel, okay? And you heard me speak a little bit about imports. We do import a lot of corn into the U.S., and there is a lot of acres being transitioned. I can't tell you exactly how much, but I can name a lot of, I think there's thousands of acres right now being transitioned. And so in order for us to get this number to where we need it to be today, we would need to probably double them acres of organic for what our organic needs are here in the U.S., okay? Organic soybeans, 205,000 acres, 7.2 million bushel. Organic wheat, 586,000 acres, 16.1. Wheat has really got a tough time. There's only so much wheat that can get used in the food market. And then the rest has to go for feed. And it has to compete against corn, okay? It's tough pulling corn out of a ration and putting wheat or oats in there, because you're giving up energy, and it's just hard to replace corn. Non-GMO corn, 7,234,000 acres. I thought I was glad to see that number, 7,234,000. And so you got 1.25 billion bushel of corn, non-GMO corn production in the U.S.
Now really it should be said that a lot of that is just conventional corn production, not necessarily going towards the non-GMO.
That's right, yeah. Okay, so like Max said, a lot of that is just, farmers are just raising non-GMO corn because it just makes sense. The bottom line on corn, you all know what the bottom line on corn is. There just isn't no money in raising corn or soybeans today, even with the good yields we get. So the farmers need to take and save wherever they can. One of the places you can save pretty big is purchasing non-GMO seed corn. I firmly believe that. You had a question?
So yeah, kind of along the same lines, where do you think that actual non-GMO market is for food, for corn flakes, for human consumption? How many bushels do you feel like that is a year?
That's a fair question. How much of this production goes for food and feed? I think the food and the feed part of it, the food and feed demand is going to increase. Okay, I can't tell you how much of that, though. It's probably a pretty small number, because I know that there's a lot of, all we purchase is non-GMO corn and organic corn. And anytime we have extra corn, rather than keeping it around on inventory, it goes to ethanol, at ethanol price, Yeah, in the food stream? Yeah, I think we can say that it does end up with companies like General Mills, Kellogg's, for example, and snack food companies like Frito-Lay, Snack King. Yeah, it could be corn syrup, absolutely. Yeah. And there's more and more of these products that are demanding non-GMO, so I think we're going to continue to see that grow. And the feed end of it is going to grow. And a lot of that is happening it's happening throughout the whole U.S., but a lot of the feed market that we supply is the West and the East Coast. So
when you say we need to double those acres,
on the organic.
you're right. How does that correlate with what we import organically? Don't we import a lot of organic grain?
We do. We do import a lot of organic grain.
So if we doubled our acres, how's that all gonna mess with what we import? What's gonna happen to the price?
What's going to happen to the price? That is,
And I know that's it's not a silly question.
it's not a silly question at all.
No.
And I think that, as we take and try and raise enough in the U.S. here to be self-sufficient, what happens with what's going to happen with the import corn? Is that import corn going to take in lower price enough so it comes in anyway? And that's a possibility, that's right. And so what's going to happen, and what happens to the price of the corn here in the middle of the Midwest? And I keep mentioning the West Coast and the East Coast. We're the farthest away from both of them. And so we got the biggest freight bill to get out there. So it's the toughest right here, right in the center of the U.S.
And ocean freight is cheap.
And ocean freight is cheap right now. But that changes every day too,
There is, some of you may be aware of the Washington Post story about a lot of organic corn being imported into the United States from Turkey in particular that wasn't really organic. And this is something that the USDA or NOP is starting to crack down on. And so the thought is, as they tighten the standards and require better certification standards from some of this imported grain, that may help domestic producers. Now, do I know how much impact it's going to have? No, I don't.
Yeah.
But they do think it will have an impact because there's no doubt that there has been some so-called organic grain imported that wasn't really organic.
Yeah. For Turkey, for example, imported probably 3 times as much corn as they produce in their country. Organic corn, so.
was really relative to that together, but has there been any stats on imported organic grain quality versus domestic organic grain quality? When we have these 98, 99% standards, are those foreign countries expected to meet that same?
There's always, that question always comes up about the quality of the import grain. And I hear, and I talk to a lot of people, and the quality is good. The quality is good, and if there's a problem with quality, it gets identified before it ever even comes to their mill. So.
Are you talking about purity for?
Well, both, but
Yeah.
they're often setting standards so high we can't achieve it almost. And what happens to that?
Yeah,
other than they get a severe dockage.
My understanding is these imported grains are often coming from GM-free zones.
Yeah.
So they've got a huge advantage from that perspective.
Very true.
Yeah.
They're coming in and they can come in really clean from that perspective. As far as the other quality, I've also heard of finding some weird stuff as well. So
Yeah.
that's not a real high quality.
So anyway, good questions, good conversation. These are just kind of interesting numbers. They're numbers that we don't see every day, and I certainly, prior to last week, I had no idea that these were kind of where everything is.
One thing there too.
Yeah,
That top number, that organic corn acres number,
yeah,
last year, I think the USDA estimated the organic corn acres at 290,000. So it's a sign of two things. One, the USDA has been dramatically underestimating the number of organic acres on some of these grains. But the other thing is the acres are increasing.
Yeah.
So those two things are going on.
The acres are increasing, there's no question about it, and we work with farmers throughout 18 states, you know, so you know, one minute I'm talking to a farmer in South Dakota, and the next minute Illinois, and the next minute Arkansas, and so we get a good handle on what's getting transitioned and what production they got out there. We're certainly not talking to everybody, but you know, we're getting a good cross representation, and it's to be perfectly honest with you, us dealing strictly with non-GMO and certified organic farmers is the reason why I keep doing what I'm doing, because I love it, you know. And if a guy was just buying crushing beans and ethanol corn day in and day out, that would just, to me, that'd be just kind of boring, really.
Another thing I see is the transitioning of who's doing the organic farming. A lot of my customers are older gentlemen that are doing kind of halfway and not very good, but I got a lot of young guys that are coming in there. They're doing it right.
Yeah.
They're getting 230, 40 bushel the acre.
Absolutely.
And I see that trend really starting to.
Yeah, yeah, you are 100% right. We got older farmers that are, well, not older, you know, in the, say, the 50s, you know, and they're expanding. They're expanding. They got a couple sons, and the sons are out there. The sons are the ones that are out there cultivating with that 24-row cultivator, you know, and they're cultivating like 3 or 4 times every crop, you know, and so the sons are the ones that, and when we go to the conferences, it's the sons that are there with the dads, and they're asking the questions, and they are enthused, you know, and you're 100% right. It's the young guys that are going to be the future of that, owning that farm. So your top 3 crops, again, this is organic, but your top 3 crops is wheat, soybeans, and corn. And you know, getting that small grain into that rotation, there is advantage. There is advantages to getting that wheat. There's advantages to your corn and soybeans to getting wheat or oats into your rotation. It's just that marketing that oats and wheat gets a little tough. Okay, so what to watch for 2017 and beyond for organic and non-GMO feed markets. More scrutiny on organic grain imports. Low conventional commodity prices continue dollar incentive to switch to non-GMO and organic. And that's, you know, that's really the long and short of the whole thing. And a lot of these guys are doing non-GMO and certified organic because they're sick and tired of supporting some big company, and they are just wanting, well, trying to have a black ink on the bottom line, you know. Investments in new supplier and processing capacity, use of smaller grains and feed rations, I mentioned that earlier. Additional non-GMO labeling commitments from animal protein sources as a key differential. Livestock, non-GMO, non-GMOs going into livestock is a big deal, and we're seeing more and more want for non-GMO into livestock. Now here is an interesting slide, and anybody can take and pick this thing apart, pick a lot of these numbers apart. There's a lot of numbers here, and basically what we're doing here is comparing a Roundup Ready crop of soybeans to our, whoops, what am I doing here? Okay, to some of our highest yielding non-GMO soybeans. And we do have varieties. Mac's got varieties also that will keep up with yield on Roundup Ready varieties of soybeans, okay? That's your center one, okay? And then we have our tofu varieties. There is some yield drag on these tofu varieties. That's the far right one. When we put this together, and we done something like this probably about 3-4 years ago, but this is a brand new one. I just put it together here over the last week. And the one clear on the left is 55 bushel per acre. Minnesota, the USDA has Minnesota at 46 bushel per acre on the last report on soybeans. I use 55 because I know southern Minnesota and northern Iowa will do better than 46 bushel per acre. I use 55 bushel also yield on our clear Highland beans here, on our top racehorse beans, non-GMO clear Highland beans. 55. I used 50 bushel yield on the tofu varieties. I used a basis on them Roundup Ready beans of 65 under. I used the same futures all the way through, okay? And I used premium there on the center chart, the center box of 25 over Chicago. And that's going to probably vary from 0 to 25 over. And if we could get some additional sales, we could even maybe go a little higher than that. And then the premium on that, on this far right one here at $1.25 over. So when you look at these here now, your net income on the bottom line, that's the number that's most important to you, okay? $407 per acre, 55 bushel beans, and you're selling them at $9.33. Your center box there, $464. So you got an advantage there of what is that, $57 an acre. You're selling them beans for $10.23, also 55 bushel per acre. And then you got your clear right one here, the tofu varieties. You're selling them for $11.23, $456 an acre, which is a $49 advantage on your bottom line. Now, everybody in their farming operation can pick this apart all day long, okay? You can come up with all different reasons why it should be that or that, okay? These are just kind of in the middle of the road numbers that I think work for average, okay? Any questions on this? Yes?
What would be your price for organic tofu?
Organic tofu, the 2017 crop, before we filled up with our needs, was like $20, okay? Today, because tofu beans, if I buy them today, might end up going for feed, they're going to be in that $17.50 to $18. So I don't know where we're going to be with the 18 crop yet, but those numbers will be determined here probably shortly after Thanksgiving. So, yes?
The non-GMO beans, one way on the right, you're still using a post-chemical?
No, you're using a pre-emerge and a post.
Pre-emerge and a post?
Yes, that's right. That's a good question because These Roundup Ready beans, we're using a pre-emerge, because a lot of guys are doing that, going with a pre-emerge and coming back with the Roundup, okay? The center box and the right box all of them is pre-emerge, and I'm pretty sure there's authority in there. And then coming back with a post-emerge.
But if it's non-GMO, it shouldn't be on that.
What was that?
If it's non-GMO, it shouldn't be touching that plant, because otherwise it'll show up if you test it. Because it's a protein.
No. You can use on these non-GMO varieties, you can use your favorite chemical program. No problem. It's not organic, right? Yeah, it's not organic. None of these are organic.
Right, but it's still non-GMO.
Yes, they're non-GMO, that's right. You just can't use a post-harvest chemical, okay? Where you would put a chemical on, for example, for, yeah. But you can use your favorite chemicals on these non-GMO. And my agronomist up at Hope, Mike, he's got this thing pretty well figured out. Weather can play a factor. Timing is everything, okay, on getting this stuff applied. But Mike's got the tank mixes. Regardless of where you get your chemicals, we supply all the chemicals you'd need, but if you want to buy them someplace else, Mike will help you with a tank mix that works good for him, okay? Organic corn. Price? Okay, right now, for organic corn, we are $8 to $8.50 for right today. That's delivered to Hope. Yep. Jan, Feb, March, we are, say, probably $9. And May, June, July, figure probably 9.25, something like that. So, them prices have been strengthening a little bit, especially when some of the USDA announcements were made about questioning the imports, and all of a sudden more demand kind of strengthened for domestic corn, okay? So now we got customers calling and requesting domestic corn, which is a good feeling because that's just what we do. We don't do any imports, and we want to support the American farmers, and that's all we do, So.
Do you take a higher moisture corn or not?
Huh?
Does it have to be certain moisture that you take corn?
Yes, we take all moistures.
Oh, you can take
We're drying organic corn today, and we will be drying organic corn probably till March and April. Because last winter, guys were harvesting corn through the winter whenever there was a break in the weather, and we were drying it. There's a lot of organic corn left in the field right now, and thousands of acres. So
I know a couple loads.
yeah. So, but we take organic corn and we dry it, and so it works out good for people. We take it pretty much 365 days a year. So in conclusion, the demand for natural, often recognized as non-genetically modified or organic, is growing among consumers. We got to remember that. It is growing among consumers. We are consumers. And the younger generation is all about proper nutrition, okay? Corn and soybeans have been and will continue to be an important source for food and feed products in our growing world. Specialty uses for corn and soybeans for food, feed, processing will continue to grow with an evolving world marketplace. And it is a world marketplace. And the demand for non-GMO and the demand for organic is growing. It's not sliding down, it is growing. Processors of soybeans are paying premiums for the extra value provided by identity preserved seeds and grains. These include GMO, IP, non-GMO, varietal pure IP, and USDA certified organic. Now the GMO IP up there, we do not do GMO IP, but I think that there probably is some GMO IP like in High Lake, for example, and we do not play in that arena at all. Changes in the world's food and energy needs will support continued growth in the market for specialty, identity-preserved grains and provide opportunities for producers and processors in the future. And so, I guess, you know, the long and short of this whole thing is we purchase only certified organic and non-GMO. Mac and us have seed varieties that work for all of them programs, and we believe that it is the way to go, and I know Mac and myself, both of us are here to help you, and we want to help you be the best and help you be profitable in your farming operation. So, and there's, you know, with the premiums, and I know you have extra work with non-GMO and certified organic, but it's all part of saving your bottom line. And right now, that's where it's at. So. That's pretty much all I have. If there's good time for any other questions.
I got kind of a ridiculous question maybe.
I know when my organic guys go from their GMO, and they clean their equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Same scrutiny need to be done when you go from into GMO from Roundup.
When you go from GMO,
From Roundup products to GMO products, is it the same scrutiny to clean your machine?
Oh, GMO or non-GMO?
Non-GMO.
Yeah, okay.
Is it the same scrutiny as it would be to go to organic?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but you need to clean it up good, like you mentioned. Yes. And the best way to do it is to, like with the combine, and that'd be probably one of the toughest, is to clean it up all good, clean your heads off and everything, and maybe take a headland off and put that in with your regular grain. Okay, flush it. Yep. A flush is probably as good as there is. Okay. And, you know, and then your planter. Make sure your planter is clean. You know, guys go from GMO and, you know, they have a little bit left in the bottom of the box, and they think, well, that'll be out in the first round. That'll come out over 80 acres. It's bad. You know, you got to clean that planter out. I had that happen with guys, and you know, they just thought it would be out the first couple rounds. It don't work that way, you know.
And then they got hit when they got it tested.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So if we wanted to grow for you, is it by contract?
Yes, we do. We write contracts. We're going to be writing, well, we've already got contracts written for organic 18 and 19 crop. Every once in a while, we do write a 3-year contract. So when we have somebody that wants to transition a bunch of grain, or a bunch of acres, and they're worried that there's going to be a market for their crop 3 years down the road, that's a long time. We wrote with them a 3-year contract, and they liked it, and now they're certified organic.
That's the organic. What about the non-GMO? Is that?
Yes, it is. Yep. Basis contract, okay? So if you raised 100 acres of beans, for example, and we wrote a contract with you for, say, 5,000 bushel at a basis of 25 over the November. You could price that then that November versus the Chicago Board of Trade, 500 bushel at a time or 1,000 bushel at a time through the growing season whenever you would like, But taking advantage of the carry in the market, like Kurt mentioned, is very good, on taking advantage of that carry, because eventually as the time goes on, your carry disappears. If there's no other question, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
You had the spreadsheet for the soybeans.
Yes.
Similar spreadsheet for corn?
I don't have one here, but
It's the price, is it per acre income? Is it about still?
okay.
Any ideas?
We, over the years, have done waxy corn. We've done a lot of waxy corn over the years through southern Minnesota here. And we have been having a battle of a time getting sales on waxy, so it isn't like I'm going to stand here and promote waxy, but we don't do a lot of contracting of specialty corn. We will write a contract with you on corn, and it'll be a basis something better than you can get at your local ethanol plant or your favored market, but because we'll make sure that it's some premium there for you, okay? And by having a basis contract, like right now, you write a basis contract on your corn and you do some pricing versus the December of 18, which is, I think he mentioned 388, that's not a bad idea probably, so.
What varieties of soybeans are you paying premium on?
We have a lot of different varieties. Mac has probably got 10 or 15 varieties, and we probably have that many also. A lot of the breeding that we work with on our soybeans comes out of like Iowa State, okay? A lot of the Iowa State varieties, especially on tofu. So you should, huh?
I'm looking at organic tofu.
Organic tofu? Okay. Yeah, Mac can help you, for sure. Yeah, I know he's got varieties that'll work perfect on your farm. Where do you farm?
Freebie.
Huh?
Freebie.
Preby?
Richard, Mike.
Oh yeah, okay.
He's plowing today.
Sure, oh yeah. We can, Mac will definitely be able to take care of you, so.
We'll talk then.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, LaVerne.
Yeah.